feeling I get, so I try to stay away. I mean, I think that Saquon Barkley is ridiculous. He's putting up 25, 30 points a week.
They're throwing to him all the time.
He's phenomenal. So that'd be an easy one there. Again, like you said, that Baltimore Philly game.
What do you do with Baltimore?
Baltimore Pitt. I got picked up John Brown, so
the deep guy. There you go.
He's a deep ball guy. You know, he doesn't.
He's cheap too on DraftKings.
Exactly, and he doesn't. He's kind of a boomer bust guy because
like that pick.
He's a deep ball guy. So you look at his line, you're like, well, he caught 4 passes on 10 targets. That doesn't seem to make sense, but it'd be for 120 yards and a touchdown or something. So the balls he's getting thrown to him are deep and they're difficult passes, but. You know, if he connects with a few of them, he's a cheap guy that can go big.
Well, it seems like the guy, too, on that team, on that offense, that always plays big in these games is Joe Flacco, especially at Pittsburgh. I mean, you know, Joe Flacco has people that love him, people that hate him, but it seems like every time it's against Pittsburgh, it's 250, 300, and 2 or 3 touchdowns.
He's a value,
and
too.
He's cheap on DraftKings, and you know he's out there, too, in the season long if you've got Cam Newton, who's on a bye this week, or if you're rolling with Alex Smith, who's also on a bye.
I don't like to spend big money on quarterbacks unless it's almost too good to be true. If you get one of the elite guys in a perfect matchup, that's fine. Let me ask you a question, both you guys. I'll start with you, Duby. But the matchup that intrigues me early is Tampa traveling to Chicago to play that wicked good defense the Bears are throwing out there. Tampa's been fantasy gold. They've got a quarterback in Fitzmagic that has thrown for over 400 yards in all 3 starts. You've got unbelievably good receivers. Mike Evans, of course, is elite, but then you get Deshaun Jackson, Godwin kid. What do you do with the Tampa guys, knowing that in Chicago this time of year, weather's something you have to watch, and then you got Khalil Mack bearing down on Fitzmagic too?
Yeah, I think that's one you could maybe build a lineup and put it in the Millionaire Maker or a couple of those bigger tournaments where you know those guys are probably going to be faded pretty heavily by the majority of people. So you know sometimes everybody talks about a defense and they're just not going to be able to go do it. But, I mean, he's got such a deep receiving core. You know, they can't cover everybody. If the O-line gives him a little bit of time, he's going to be throwing. And so, you know, there is that chance that game, you know, he does it again. And if he does, then you're going to be in a good scenario because nobody's going to have them. But I certainly wouldn't be pouring a bunch of money into that one either because it could go the other way.
How about O.J. Howard? Potentially a guy
3,500, right?
Yeah, who has come along, and there's the tight end spot. I think he's a pretty good play this week too, especially if Khalil Mack's going to be going. You know, he's probably not going to have much time. He might be looking at some of that underneath stuff. O.J. Howard, I think, would be my sneaky play in that one.
Yeah, it always makes me so nervous when they got 2 guys though. Like. I took O.J. Howard. Yeah, I took O.J. Howard last week, and they had Bray for a touchdown, and then you switch him, and then it goes the other way.
I hate that.
When they got two capable guys, it's you know it's just who knows who it's going to.
A couple more, we'll let you get going and let you enjoy your afternoon. But typical Sunday for you, if we're not practicing and there's NFL football, knowing with your beautiful bride and the 3 kids, how do you balance out wanting to watch football and also being a good dad and husband?
Yeah, it's tough. Jen's not a big fan of Sundays. Not at all. But usually I'll turn it on in the background at noon, and then our Parker will go down he goes down for a nap at about 1 o'clock. So I'll keep an eye on it until 1 o'clock, and then as soon as Parker goes down, I'll usually just bring Nate in the basement with me and be a poor father and like put a movie on his iPad.
I don't think you're alone.
Movie in his headphones, and I'm like, you can watch the whole movie this time, bud. Yeah.
The one thing you're going to have to do as you get older, and I've figured this out, it took me a long time. I'm divorced now, but now I'm living with another gal. Got her into the fantasy football world by getting her family recruited into a family league. She has a team. Now she wants to watch. I don't know how interested in football your wife will be, but if you can sell her on some type of fantasy football league where she has a say and she can pick, then she'll be giving those kids the food about 11:30, tucking them in for that nap, and she'll be right there with you on the Barca Lounger watching her players. No?
I don't think that's going to happen.
I was going to say, I can speak from a similar experience. My wife was never into it until the first year we got DirecTV and we got the NFL Sunday ticket. And she kind of was asking about fantasy. So the next year, she got a fantasy team.
Changed
and now
everything.
She is into the Sunday ticket more than I'm into it. I get it for the Dolphins. I watch the Dolphins games and all that.
I mean, she'll fight it early, but if you get her in and she has a say, show her pictures of Tom Brady. That might help.
My wife likes J.J. Watt. You could try that too.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? I kind of floated out there once in a while where I'll be like, oh, you should have seen what happened this week in my fantasy team. She's like, I don't really care. Like, yeah, all right, fair enough.
You tried.
So she has
tried every week. You should have seen this. I got screwed over. You should have seen this play. She's like, yeah.
Does she watch hockey? I mean, she watches obviously.
She watches my games, but that's about it.
Do you ever hear about it when you get home?
You got 3 kids under 5. You don't really.
There's not a lot of free time just to hang out. But does she ever? She doesn't critique it. Like Matt Cullen used to always talk about his wife when he got home. She'd have like a laundry list of certain plays within the game that went wrong for him.
Geez, no.
So she's not
waiting on the couch with the clicker.
She's not like
ready
Bob
to review
Mason Jr. going over the angles you were on in the crease.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
She just says good job, and she just asked me how I'm doing.
How much fun was it? And we'll let you after this is the last question, I promise. But how much fun was it for you guys to live through your first experience in Minnesota? I'll never forget, as long as I live, bumping into you in the hotel in Buffalo when you first were a member of the Minnesota Wild, not knowing where this journey was going to go, and look where it's taken you. But together, you guys, I mean, it really basically changed your lives from, that season on, that half season you put together, that magical run you guys had into the playoffs. She had to love that. We talk about it a lot just because it's crazy to think. And when you see guys with families that are going on 1-year contracts and they're kind of bouncing between teams, and you realize that like that sucks. And I certainly wasn't far off of being in the same boat. It feels right. This feels what you dreamed about growing up, that this is how it would be. But with how close it was, you look back and it's crazy to imagine with the 3 kids just having uncertainty and not knowing where we're going to be and moving around. And you do it. I mean, that's what you sign up for. But very, very grateful for the opportunity that I got here and the way things turned out. Yeah, we're really happy you're here, and we're hoping to have you on numerous times throughout the football season.
Absolutely.
To go over bad beats and talk about some sneaky long shots for the weekend.
I'd like to go over some good wins instead of bad beats.
Well, you know what? You said a good win against Zach last week by .1.
Thank you,
we're going to
Devan.
get some revenge this weekend, though.
All right, thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Duby. There he goes, Devan Dubnyk, nice enough to join us on the show here. Caitlin Gamble, our adroit stage manager, is going to help him get to his car here. There she goes. And you can see all of Caitlin Gamble's work at wild.com. Any picture you see that incorporates Minnesota Wild hockey is her work. And I like when she finds the pictures of Devan Dubnyk and puts the little bunny ears on. That's my favorite. I know he doesn't like that so much. Hopefully he can't hear me right now. But that's good stuff.
We'd love to welcome Bite Squad as the newest sponsor of the Talk North podcast network. Go to bitesquad.com or download their app and get food to your door in minutes. And for a limited time, they're offering free delivery to our listeners on the first order by using the code TALKNORTH.
Dan, we got about 10 minutes to go here. We're going to run through some fantasy football sleepers for the listeners. And again, talknorth.com. Jim Souhan's the guy. We need your advertising dollars. We need to get your product out there on our show here, The Frozen Fantasy. We're going to have Wild-centric guests throughout the year, talk a ton of fantasy football, and when the season rolls around, we'll get into fantasy golf as well. So let's talk.
That's the fun part of it. I going into that, talking fantasy football with those guys, and
they're
just
so
talking,
into it,
and just talking. I mean, finding Luke Cunnin in the dressing room today, and his bad beat that he had putting Jared Goff and Cooper Kupp on the bench last night.
He was distraught about that, and he got talked into it by one of our other goalies, Alex Stalock. And so next time we see Al, and he's, I think, right now on his way to Denver, we're going to have to give him a hard time about that because he trumped my decision just putting one of those 2 on the bench. But I'm a placard guy, as you know, Dan.
Wow, you prepared with that.
Built
Holy
my
cow.
placard with my love, hate, and sleepers for each position.
And you even color-coded it.
Well, the love is red because, again,
like
the heart, you have to have the red. The hate is in black. I don't know why. Maybe it's just we're blacklisting these guys. And the sleepers bring all the money, so they're in green on my placard. Let's go through the positions. We'll start at quarterback. Give me someone you love, someone you hate, and someone that's going to be dirt cheap that the fans can plug in and make some cash.
Well, I'm going to start with the sleeper because, I have a couple sleepers for you. Andy Dalton, I know he's on your list.
He's on my list.
5,400 in DraftKings.
Love the matchup.
Has been a back-end quarterback one all season long. I think in the ESPN leagues I'm in, he's the 12th highest-scoring quarterback, so he's, okay. But you look at that lineup against Atlanta, and you see the week Drew Brees had last week. Andy Dalton's got a better offensive line. He's got a little more time. He's got weapons all over the field, even with Joe Mixon out, which maybe leads you to believe they might put the ball in the air a little bit more. Atlanta's secondary, ravaged by injury right now. Both their starting safeties out for the year. Andy Dalton at 5,400. Go get on him right now.
Yeah, I'm going to do a little Cleveland stack. I already mentioned that I'm going to use Jarvis Landry in a majority of my lineups. I'm going to stack him with Baker Mayfield. I'm going to buy the steam that is Baker Mayfield, and I think a lot of people, even though they love the idea of Baker Mayfield, when it comes to pressing that button, there's so many other bigger names around there that are known commodities they might not. And here's all I know. He did not play with the first team through the entire preseason. Didn't play during the regular season until he came into that football game in the second half last week. And I know it's been 10 days, but
he didn't even practice with the first team.
Not even practice with the first team. And he went out there and went 17 for 21, over 200, and they trust him enough to run plays for 2 points where they're doing the Philly special, and he's catching the ball for the 2-point conversion. I love Baker Mayfield. He's cheap. I'm going to stack him with Jarvis Landry. I like the matchup against the Raiders, who I do not look at as an elite defense. So those are 2 quarterbacks you can use as sleepers. My hate list includes some good quarterbacks, including Fitzmagic and Matt Stafford. Both have tough matchups. Both are great fantasy quarterbacks. But for me, I'm off the Fitzmagic bandwagon. How about you?
I'm with you. It has to end here at some point, and he could end up on his flat on his back many times this week.
Might be his last start, too, if you've got him in season long. Remember, they have a bye in week 5 after this tough matchup with the Bears. Then, if they struggle, you might come back with Jameis Winston.
Well, and he put up big numbers in that game on Monday night against Pittsburgh. And so his line didn't look terrible from a fantasy perspective. But when you look at, Dirk Cutter, he's not looking at his fantasy lineups. I don't think he is. And you look at some of the poor throws Fitzmagic had in that game. He had a red zone turnover. He threw an interception for a pick 6. That was a terrible throw. And at some point, you got to get in the business of winning games, and you've got a former first overall pick sitting on the bench. So if it goes south for Fitzmagic this week, as great as he's been for fantasy owners, I wouldn't be surprised, like you said after that bye, if Jameis Winston's in the lineup.
We're going to move on to running backs in just a second. The obvious ones for me would be Drew Brees, Matt Ryan, and yes, Eli Manning. He's starting in my season long over Matt Stafford, so I'm going to practice what I preach with these placards. I think that the matchup against the Saints, if the weather is good in New York, and again, keep an eye on the weather. I know it's rained there the last 36 hours. There's some wind issues. I'm going to watch the weather Sunday morning. If the weather isn't an issue, then Drew Brees and Eli Manning should put on a show Sunday, circa 3:25 here in the cornfields. Running backs, Dan, to me it looks a little thin this week. I don't see a ton of value there as far as sleepers go. I mean, the one guy that we talked about earlier in the show is Sony Michel. You don't know what's going to happen now that Burkhead is out for the year. And I hate trusting Belichick and the running back, but they're running out of bodies. What do you think of Sony Michel?
I've been trying to get him all week in my big league just simply because, you look at Jeremy Hill's on IR, Rex Burkhead's on IR. They're just running out of running backs.
2 guys you trust right now, right?
And James White is, if you're a PPR guy, you're not trusting him as a 3-down back. And Sony Michel, you draft him in the first round. You think at some point you have to give him some run. This seems like no better time than now. Although I will say this, Miami's run defense has been stout this year. It was a big weakness for them last year. I don't know how many times I watched that defense get torched by opposing running backs and tight ends. It's been solid this year. One sleeper for you here. Actually, I'll give you 2 sleepers.
Okay.
Kerryon Johnson.
He looked good last week.
From the Lions. First 100-yard rusher for the Lions in 4 years, 5 years. Dallas has surrendered 100 yards or more games on the ground 2 of the first 3 games, and Christian McCaffrey had 95 yards.
They made Carson look good in Seattle last week. This could be a great take.
Yep, and he is $4,400 on DraftKings.
Love Kerryon Johnson.
Austin Eckler, I mentioned him last week, but he's a guy $4,200.
Dirt cheap.
Just, you look at the opponent, San Francisco stinks. They're without their quarterback now. From a volume perspective, if San Diego gets way out in front in that game, you might see less Melvin Gordon. That's the one thing that worries me about Melvin Gordon is he might score 200 and get 85 yards in the first half, but if they're up 3 touchdowns, you're not going to see him in the second half. San Francisco also has surrendered 26 receptions to opposing running backs so far this year.
It's a good steam here.
And that is Austin Eckler's cup of tea, catching the ball out of the backfield.
Yeah, for me, the obvious ones with the running backs, we always start with Kamara, but I think they've outpriced Kamara for me. He's in the mid 9,000 range now, and if you take him, it really handicaps what you can do with him and at the wide receiver position. So I'm going to fade Kamara, even though he's great. I mean, he's a terrific back. He's just too expensive for me.
Unbelievable, isn't he, though? Just the number of receptions the guy gets.
Yeah, he's great.
He's got 30% of their target volume among all their players.
Yeah, and that includes Michael Thomas, who's right now a top 2 or 3 receiver in the league. The two guys I'm going to focus in on most of my lineups are Jordan Howard in Chicago and Ezekiel Elliott in Dallas. They both have juicy matchups. I can't see anyone stopping them this weekend. Wide receivers are wide open as